Imagine waking up after millions of years of sleep, only to discover you're trapped in a metal body, stripped of everything that made you alive. Now imagine that some of your kind have gone completely, utterly insane from this realization. They wear the rotting flesh of their victims like grotesque clothing, believing it will make them alive again. These are the Flayed Ones, and they might be the most terrifying thing in all of Warhammer 40,000. To understand the horror of the Flayed Ones, we need to go back 65 million years to when the Necrons were still the Necrontyr, a dying race consumed by cancer and hatred. The Necrontyr made a deal with the star gods called the Citan. They would transfer their souls into immortal metal bodies, becoming the Necrons. What they didn't realize was that this biotransference would strip away everything that made them truly alive: their emotions, their ability to feel pleasure, their very souls. Most Necrons accepted this cold, emotionless existence. They became the perfect soldiers, tireless, fearless, and utterly without mercy. But some couldn't handle what they'd lost. The Flayed Ones are those who broke. The official Imperial records speak of something called the Flare virus, a mysterious affliction that drives certain Necrons to madness. But the truth is far more disturbing. When the Necrons turned against their Citan masters during the war in heaven, they shattered these star gods into fragments. One of these Tatan, known as Landugor the Flayer, cursed the Necrons with his dying breath. This curse manifests as an overwhelming compulsion to wear flesh, any flesh they can get their metal claws on. The affected Necrons begin to believe that by draping themselves in the skin and muscle of their victims, they can somehow reclaim their lost mortality. They think they can feel again, taste again, be alive again. Of course, this is impossible. Their sensory apparatus can't process organic matter in any meaningful way. But madness doesn't listen to logic. The transformation from Necron warrior to Flayed One is gradual and horrific. It begins with small obsessions, a fascination with organic life forms, an inexplicable desire to touch living tissue. The affected Necron might start collecting small trophies from fallen enemies. As the curse takes hold, their behavior becomes more erratic. They begin to move differently, hunched over like predators stalking prey. Their mechanical precision gives way to something more feral. Their weapon systems often malfunction or are abandoned entirely in favor of razor-sharp claws that can flay skin from bone in seconds. The final stage is complete madness. The Flayed One becomes convinced it is alive, that the rotting flesh draped over its metal frame is actually its own skin. They'll have conversations with their flesh, treating strips of decaying muscle like beloved pets or lost family members. Other Necrons find them so disturbing that they often exile Flayed Ones from their tomb worlds, forcing them to wander the galaxy in search of fresh victims to wear. Flayed Ones are ambush predators of the highest order. Unlike other Necrons who wage war with cold tactical precision, Flayed Ones hunt for the pure joy of the kill. They phase in and out of reality, using an ability called flesh hunger, appearing from shadows and walls like nightmares made manifest. Their favorite targets are isolated humans, Imperial Guard stragglers, lone tech priests, anyone separated from their unit. They prefer live victims because fresh flesh is better quality for their purposes. The screaming doesn't bother them. In fact, they seem to enjoy it. But here's what makes them truly terrifying. They remember fragments of their past lives. Sometimes, a Flayed One will recognize a piece of technology or hear a familiar language, and for just a moment, a spark of their original personality shows through. They might try to speak, to explain themselves before the madness crashes back down like a wave. These moments of clarity make them more tragic than any other Necron unit, but no less dangerous. Don't mistake their madness for weakness. Flayed Ones retain all the physical capabilities of their Necron frames: superhuman strength, incredible durability, and those infamous reanimation protocols that let them get back up from wounds that would kill anything else. Their claws are monomolecular blades that can slice through ceramite armor like tissue paper. They move with surprising speed, using their phase shift abilities to appear behind enemy lines or inside supposedly secure bunkers. Imperial forces have reported entire squads vanishing overnight, with nothing left but empty armor covered in precise cut marks. What makes them especially dangerous is their unpredictability. A rational Necron force follows logical tactical doctrine. Flayed Ones follow the twisted logic of madness. They might ignore strategic targets to focus on a single terrified guardsman who reminds them of something from their past life. Or they might suddenly coordinate in ways that shouldn't be possible, as if their shared curse creates a kind of pack intelligence. The mere existence of Flayed Ones creates terror that goes beyond their physical threat. Imperial forces have standing orders to retreat immediately upon confirmed Flayed One contact, not because they can't be fought, but because of what they do to morale. Guardsmen who survive encounters with Flayed Ones often require mind-wiping or execution to prevent the spread of panic. The sight of a metal skeleton wearing the face of your dead comrade while trying to have a conversation with a severed arm, it breaks something in the human mind. Even Space Marines, those transhuman warriors who know no fear, have been known to hesitate when facing Flayed Ones. There's something fundamentally wrong about them that triggers a primal revulsion in anyone with even a fragment of a soul. And perhaps most disturbing of all, some Imperial scholars believe the curse is slowly spreading through the entire Necron race. Each awakening tomb world seems to have more Flayed Ones than the last. But the real horror of the Flayed Ones isn't their violence or their grotesque appearance. It's what they represent: the complete failure of the Necrons' bargain with the Citan. They're proof that even immortality can become a curse worse than death. Every Flayed One is a being that has existed for millions of years, but can never truly live. They're trapped in metal bodies that can never feel warmth, never taste food, never experience the simple pleasure of breathing. Their obsession with flesh isn't really about death. It's about a desperate, impossible desire to be alive. They're the universe's most tragic monsters, and they'll never, ever stop hunting for what they can never have. The Flayed Ones embody everything that makes Warhammer 40,000 so uniquely horrifying. They're not evil for the sake of being evil. They're the inevitable result of cosmic-scale tragedy and hubris. They remind us that in the grim darkness of the far future, sometimes the most monstrous thing you can encounter is something that was once trying to save itself. So the next time you're playing against Necrons and you see those hunched, flesh-draped figures phase onto the battlefield, remember, you're not just fighting an enemy. You're facing the walking embodiment of a species' greatest mistake, and they want nothing more than to wear your skin in a desperate attempt to remember what being alive felt like. Sweet dreams.